Hello, brilliant humans. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This particular episode that you're listening to today actually aired on my private podcast feed that I had in late 2022 into early 2023. It was part of a 6-episode series on messaging and positioning. This particular episode is all about how to position yourself as the go-to. I wanted to share it here because it's super valuable, walks you through what that looks like, and gives you some different ideas and strategies for positioning yourself as the go-to in your industry. So without further ado, let's get into it. Positioning is the most critical sales element in your business. So often we hear how the market is saturated, right? We hear that, there's a lot of people doing the same things. There's a lot of people talking about the same topics, right? And that may be true from a topics and skills perspective, right? There may be a lot of people talking about messaging. There's probably a lot of people talking about branding. There's a lot of people talking about systems. There's a lot of people talking about sales. And there may be a lot of people with the same title, right? Brand strategist, brand designer, systems strategist, systems expert, positioning strategist, messaging strategist, a coach, consultant, whatever. Those titles are everywhere. But where I actually think the saturation is coming from is the messaging and positioning. A lot of the brands who talk about the same topics, or a lot of the brands where people have similar skill sets to each other, the issue is that they feel the same and there is no uniqueness to the way that their ideas are being presented. It all just sounds like the same things. There is no way to differentiate them in the marketplace. And the way that you differentiate yourself is not in the ways that we are typically taught to differentiate ourselves. And I'll talk about that in a second. But in order to stand out, you need to be able to create a position in the marketplace that only you can fill. So this isn't something that happens by accident. It's something that we can actually strategically implement so that our audience starts to recognize us as different from all the other people doing the same thing. And this has nothing to do with some of the things that we're taught, like, having really great visual branding, having a really beautiful website, having very distinct colors for our brand, knowing the right people, going viral, getting to speak on certain stages. Although these things are helpful, and there's nothing wrong with having a really great visual brand. I designed brands and worked on brand strategy and brand visuals for companies for years. And it is really important to have something that looks good and appeals to your audience. Having a great and beautiful website, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually really important to have a website that is conversion focused and gets people to where you want them to go on your website. Being able to speak on certain stages or getting to have certain opportunities, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. However, a lot of times these things are not in our control. Like going viral is not in our control, or who we get to meet in our journey of entrepreneurship is not in our control a lot of times. These are things that just kind of tend to happen, right? And also, these aren't things that lead to a buying decision. Someone isn't going to buy from you because you have, the color pink in your branding or the color black in your branding. They're not like, oh yeah, that's exactly the reason why I'm purchasing from them. These things support a buying decision. If you have spoken on a certain stage, that might make you seem more credible to some people. Some people might take a lot of stock in that, and that might influence their decision in terms of wanting to work with you. Having really great branding might influence someone to say, oh, I really am attracted to how they present their ideas through their visual brand. And that might support their decision to work with you. But those aren't the reasons why someone is buying from you. They're buying from you because they feel connected to the things you're talking about. They know that you can help them get a transformation. They feel like you see and understand their problem in a way that's very specific to them. And so positioning is what happens during the buying decision process. As someone evaluates your brand to see if you're the one to help them get the transformation, they start to categorize you in their mind. If you sound the same as everyone else, or you are positioned in a way that makes you very similar to the other brands who are doing the same kind of work that you are, you'll just blend in as another, insert whatever title here. You'll just be another messaging strategist, right? Another group program, another one-on-one service, another VIP day. We don't want to be just another. We want to be the only one. And this is why we need to be able to take positioning into our own hands and start to strategically position ourselves. At the end of the day, we cannot control how someone else perceives us, right? People are going to come in contact with all of our brand touch points. They're going to come in contact with our messaging, with our sales process, with our ideas, with our concepts, and they are going to make a decision about how they see us. However, the way we talk about things, what we talk about, how we talk about it, how we present our ideas and our offers and our transformations and our solutions and our problem solving, that influences how someone thinks about us, how someone perceives whether we are the best fit to solve their problem or not. And so this is why we need to think about our positioning more strategically and be able to take it into our own hands in a sense, right? And remember, the definition of positioning that we established in episode 2 is to effectively articulate the value of the transformation in a way that sparks action. And when we're doing that, we are doing it so that the other person on the other end, the person that we want to help the most, can come in contact with our brand and it clicks for them. They get it. They're like, yes, this is exactly what I have been looking for. This person makes me feel seen, heard, and understood, and I know I can trust them to help me get the transformation that I want. That's what we're doing when we're positioning our brand. And so I want to dive into the 3 things that you need in place to position yourself as the go-to for your perfect fit people. And okay, so what are the 3 things that we need in place to position ourselves as the go-to? Number 1 is to know your people deeply. I know this sounds so rudimentary, but a lot of people don't spend time doing this. I literally had a client intensive recently, and this person has been in business for many years, is very successful, has a full roster of clients that they are working with. And we went through deep diving into their perfect fit people for a specific offer. And at the end, I was saying, you obviously know who your audience is. And my client was like, actually, I feel like I didn't based on this conversation. They're like, I actually feel like I didn't really know the people that were perfect for this offer before we did these exercises. And so I want you to take a step back and think about this, because even though we've been in business for a long time for some of us, right? A few years, 5+ years, whatever that looks like for us, we might feel like, oh yeah, I know my audience, I know my people. But do we know them deeply? Are we understanding them on the level of how they make buying decisions, not just on the surface level of like, this is a problem and this is the solution that they want, and these are some of the questions they might be asking. I want to understand, how is it that they're making buying decisions? What is it that they're thinking through? What are some of the things that they're running through in their mind in order to make a buying decision? And how people make buying decisions is going to be different for every audience. There are some key elements that I'm going to walk you through in a second here that you need to be looking at, but how each audience answers these questions and approaches how they make a buying decision is going to be different, which is why you need to understand your perfect fit people deeply. So there's an exercise that I take my clients through that helps us to understand where our client is at, what are they considering, what are they thinking through before making a buying decision. I call this like the identity onion peel, because we're basically going from the top layer and just peeling back the onions so that we understand our clients so deeply. And there are 4 elements that drive a buying decision. And these elements are actions, thoughts, feelings, fears, and desires. Actually, that's 5. Sorry. Those are 5 things. Actions, thoughts, feelings, fears, and desires. Our job is to understand each of these for our clients so that we can meet them where they are. We need to know all of these pieces so that when we are creating content, when we are speaking to them, when we are inviting them into an offer, we can speak to where exactly they are and help come alongside them as they make a buying decision. Our goal is not to get a yes out of every single person, although that would be wonderful. Our goal is to get someone to the point where they say, this is for me, or no, this is not for me, and move on. Because we want to curate an audience of people who are here for what we're doing and are here for our specific solution. When we do this, we can actually support them, and we don't have to use any emotional triggers. We don't have to use any of those sales tactics that don't feel good to sell, because really what we're doing is just coming alongside them and providing them with the right information at the right time in order to make a buying decision. So that is the first thing you need in place in order to position yourself as the go-to is knowing your people deeply. The second piece is having a methodical process that gets people results consistently. People care about the transformation. They care about getting the result. That is what they are coming to us for. Can you get that to them consistently and reliably? Do you have a proven method that can take someone from point A to point B? This is one of the most important pieces of positioning, because without this, you're really just saying the same thing as everyone else. So often, people are concerned that others are teaching the same topics, but they don't take the time to break down how they apply the tactics. That's your methodical process. Messaging and positioning is the same around the board. A lot of people who are messaging strategists or positioning strategists are going to tell you some of the same things that I'm sharing with you here. They're going to be talking about the same topics. They're going to be talking about understanding your audience. They're going to be talking about having clear messaging that converts. They're going to be talking about those overarching topics. However, how I explain messaging and positioning and the order of steps that I take you through to define your messaging and positioning is what sets me apart. Your Magnetic Six is a process for how I help you to create messaging that converts. How I explain things in the order of steps I take you through to get to the result is what sets me apart from other people who are talking about the same thing. The brands that you look up to as successful have mastered solving a specific problem by getting people a specific result consistently. So for instance, if you went to a restaurant that has this amazing pasta dish, you absolutely love it, and every time you have a craving for it, you want to go and get this dish from this restaurant, right? You're craving this pasta dish. You're like, oh, that would be so great for dinner tonight. Let's go and get it from this restaurant. Now imagine if each time you went, it was different. They said it was the same exact dish, but the look, feel, and taste of it was different every single time. What would you do in that scenario? You would stop going there to satisfy this craving, right? You might just end up ignoring that craving altogether. You might decide, like, every time I have this craving, I'm going to ignore it because the solution that I actually want doesn't get me the result, which is having this amazing pasta. Or you're going to find another solution that delivers and solves the problem of that craving. And this restaurant is now no longer in your brain positioned as the restaurant with your favorite pasta dish. The reason this restaurant is not creating the same exact dish every time is because they're not using the same process. Something is happening in the way that they're creating this pasta dish that is making it so that it is not coming out the same every single time. And so that impacts how you think about it, and it impacts you wanting to go back there for that solution. This is what happens in our businesses when we don't have a proven methodical process that gets people results. Because if we want to be positioned as the go-to, we need to be the person who can get this result consistently. I cannot be considered a messaging, positioning, sales strategist if I can't get people the result that I promise every single time. People aren't going to think of me in that way. This is the impact having a proven process that gets results will have on your positioning. The third thing that you need to have in place to be positioned as the go-to is your thought-provoking perspective. This is a big one that I see that holds people back from really standing out in their space in their industry. The thing is that people no longer care about information. I'm just going to say that one more time. People no longer care about information. When this industry was newer and there wasn't as much sophistication as there is now, people could share information. You could just collect information that wasn't readily available online or not easy to be able to find, and they could share that information, and it was enough. It was enough to get you noticed in a way that drove sales. That is no longer true of our industry. Information is everywhere. You can literally find information about any topic, about messaging, about positioning, about sales. You can find that information online. There's a lot of information about how you can create messaging that converts, how you can increase your sales. There's a lot of information. There's even a lot of implementation strategies of how you can implement those concepts into your own business. However, what's missing is the application and implementation of that information for the specific person that you're trying to help. People want to know how they can apply information and principles in a way that solves their problem and in a way that aligns with their values. That piece right there will literally help you to connect and convert more people into your offers. People want to know how they can apply information and principles in a way that solves their problem and in a way that aligns with their values. Your unique perspective is that thing. Your unique perspective is the application of the information that they're looking for in a way that's specific to their problem and that aligns with their values. What you need to do is share how you think about the problem, because the way that you think about the problem is going to be filtered through your values, which are connected to the values of your audience. You want to work with people who resonate with the same values that you do, because that just creates the type of community and synergy that you want in helping them get the transformation. If someone really wanted to, they can go on Google and learn all about messaging, positioning, and pick up a lot of information and how-tos on how to hack it for themselves. However, the reason that people work with me is that they value how I take that information and I apply it to their specific problem, and then I walk them through the transformation in a way that is aligned with how they want to do business. And that piece right there will set you up to stand out from every other person in your industry in a way that helps you connect with the right people consistently. This is where the value of what you do, this is where that piece about articulating the value of what you do comes from. When you can do this, you are going to be able to effectively articulate what is the value of working with you and why working with you is going to get them the transformation that much faster. When you don't share your unique perspective, when you don't share about how you think about the problem and how you're going to apply and implement the information that is out there, what happens is that you sound like everybody else. Your message gets diluted, and then it's just another XYZ. And we talked about how we don't want to be just another, we want to be the strategist. We want to be the service provider. We want to be the coach for the people who are the perfect fit for the solution that we provide. You sharing your perspective also helps your perfect fit people really start to think about the possibilities. It allows them to tap into their desire. It allows them to tap into what would become possible if I could solve this problem? Because right now they're sitting in the place of like, I can't solve this problem. This is something I'm constantly experiencing. This is something that's constantly coming up for me, and I just have not been able to figure out how to solve it. And you sharing your perspective allows them to start tapping into the possibility of what it would look like if this problem were no longer a problem. And they start to break away from the one lane thinking that they were experiencing that and it allows them to start to break free and break away from the one lane way of thinking that they were using to approach their problems. It allows them to see what other solutions are available to them and what possibilities that will open up for them. And it also starts to help them see why your solution is the one that they really want to tap into to get the transformation. So I want to ask you, how often are you sharing your perspective? How often are you sharing the unique way that you approach the problem that they're solving? If the answer is not that often, then I want to encourage you to shift that so that you're starting to share more of that perspective with your audience. When you start to infuse your unique way of thinking into your message, you really start to shine, my friend. One really quick strategy for how to do this is to stop creating so much how-to content where you're sharing a lot of information and knowledge. Like I said, there's so much of that already out there, and start creating content around how your audience should think about the information that is available to them, how they should start to think about and approach the problem that they are experiencing. This is such a powerful way to position yourself and to create an empathy-driven sales system, because you are coming at them from the perspective of knowing what are the things that they are thinking about, what are the ways that they are approaching the problem, what are the things they're thinking through, and you're helping to start to break that down for them in a way that opens up those possibilities, and that creates just so much connection, so much trust with your audience in a way that's authentic and does not need to tap into any icky sales strategies. So let me recap those 3 things for you again. In this episode, we talked about the 3 things you need to have in place to position yourself as the go-to. Number 1, knowing your audience's buying psychology, not just knowing what the problem is and what is the solution that they want, but really understanding what are the things they're thinking through in order to make a buying decision on a specific solution. Number 2, having a proven method that gets consistent results and start to infuse that in your messaging. People want to know what is the proven process that's going to get me to this result? And that helps you to start being positioned as the go-to because they can trust you and they can rely on you to get them this result consistently. And the third thing that will set you up to be positioned as the go-to is your thought-provoking perspective. How are you taking the information that's out there on the topic that you teach on, and how are you implementing it and applying it in a way that aligns with the solution that they want and their values and how they want to do business? Okay, so that was a lot, right? We dove in really deep here. We got into some nitty-gritty elements of positioning. How are you feeling, my friend? I hope that you're feeling really excited to share your perspective, that you're really excited to start showing up in a way where you are owning how it is that you uniquely solve the problem, because you have this differentiating genius, this brilliance that needs to be out in the world. And so I hope that these conversations have really helped you to see how you can start to show up from that place. You don't need to do anything more to be that person. You are that person who can solve this problem and do it in a unique and incredible way. We just need to dig in and dial in some of these elements so that that is coming through in your messaging and positioning.